If slow burn Christmas stories about a widowed dame, a foster heart nurse, and three bold little girls move you, please like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next story on this channel. The first snow of December fell on Maple Ridge like someone had shaken a snow globe and forgotten to stop. Eliza Hart stood just inside the automatic doors of the town's only supermarket, rubbing warmth back into her fingers. Her scrubs were hidden under a thick navy coat. A clipboard was tucked under one arm, a paper cup of coffee cooling in her hand. She had come straight from the clinic. Her feet ached. Her eyes felt gritty. There was a 12-hour night shift at the nursing home waiting for her in a few hours. For the next 10 minutes, though, she had been drafted into volunteer duty. Just help fold and sort, the woman from the church had said, smiling as she pressed a pair of gloves into Eliza's hands. The coat drive does better if someone under 60 is standing here. So now, next to the produce section where oranges were piled like small suns, there was a cardboard box overflowing with winter coats. A hand-lettered sign read, "Share your warmth this Christmas." So Eliza knelt by the box and started pulling out jackets. She shook off bits of lint, checked pockets for forgotten items, old receipts, a stray gum wrapper, and folded each coat into a neater shape. Her breath puffed in front of her. She reached for a heavy charcoal coat, and something slipped out of the inside pocket. A small rectangle of bright blue paper drifted down, landing face down on the linoleum. She set the coat aside and picked it up. Glitter clung to her fingers. The paper was folded in half, edges slightly ragged, like it had been cut with small, determined hands. A crooked heart was drawn on the outside, bandaged with white crisscrosses. Eliza's own heart gave a strange, small kick. She unfolded it carefully. Inside, in the big block letters and scattered spelling, was a message. "Dear nurse with the sunshine hair, our daddy is kind but sad. His heart is broken. Can you come fix it before Christmas? Love, L. J. M. Paz." We live in the big sad house on Pine Lake Road. Eliza stared at the words. Noise blurred around her. The hum of cartwheels, the beep of scanners, carols leaking from the overhead speakers. Everything receded until there was only the paper in her hand and the weight of a sentence that felt like it had been written straight into the hollow places inside her. Nurse with the sunshine hair. The kids at the clinic had started calling her that. It wasn't just the color. It was the way she tried to bring warmth into cold exam rooms, to make shots and checkups feel less like invasions. Her throat tightened. L. J. M. 3 initials, 3 little signatures, 3 different styles of handwriting. One heavier, one small and precise, one looping. 3 kids. She swallowed. Big sad house on Pine Lake Road. Maple Ridge only had one big house on Pine Lake Road. Everyone in town knew it. It sat alone on a rise, overlooking the frozen water, bourgeois old timber house with a deep porch and tall windows. It had belonged to the Ellison family for generations. Grant Ellison lived there now. Grant Ellison, the tech CEO who had made a fortune in Boston, then retreated to the lake house to raise his 3 daughters after his wife died. He drove into town sometimes in a dark SUV, picking up prescriptions or groceries, always polite, always a little distant. Eliza had seen him once at the clinic, carrying a little girl on his hip. Lily. She'd heard the nurse at the front desk say, mild asthma. Nothing serious, but enough to make a father listen carefully, worry quietly. Eliza looked back at the letter. "Aren't you freezing over here?" The voice jolted her. She looked up to see the church volunteer, Mrs. Klein, watching her with kind eyes and a red Christmas sweater full of embroidered snowmen. "I'm fine," Eliza said quickly, folding the paper shut by instinct. "Just found a note." Mrs. Klein peered. "Oh," she said, from someone who dropped off a coat. "Looks like it," Eliza replied. "Anything important, Mrs. Klein asked?" Eliza hesitated. The words in her hand felt like a secret. "I'm not sure yet," she said. Mrs. Klein nodded, distracted by a new batch of donors approaching with bags. Eliza slipped the blue paper into her coat pocket. She moved on to the next jacket, but her mind stayed on the letter. "Our daddy is kind but sad. His heart is broken." Her chest ached in a way that had nothing to do with the long day. She knew what a big, sad house looked like from the inside. She had lived in enough of them. Different walls, different cities, same feeling. She could see herself at 8, sitting on the edge of a bed in a room that wasn't quite hers, listening to a foster parent that argue in the hallway about money. Christmas lights blinking outside the window, cheap and cheerful, while inside everything felt tense and temporary. She could see Miss Beth's kitchen, the one good foster home, the one where she'd stayed long enough to memorize the pattern on the curtains and the sound of a humming refrigerator. Miss Beth had made cocoa from scratch and let Eliza decorate cookies with enough sprinkles to make a dentist faint. Even that had ended. Papers signed, a new placement, a new room. She'd learned the rule after that: don't attach. Don't expect to be chosen. Don't mistake a season for a forever. Eliza took a steadying breath. She was 29, not 8. She was a nurse. She had a job, a small apartment above a florist shop, a life she'd built herself. And yet the ache that rose when she read that line, "Can you come fix it before Christmas," felt perilously similar to the ache of wanting someone, anyone, to walk into the house she'd been left in and say, "I'm here for you. You are not too much or too little." She folded another coat. She could ignore it, chalk it up to misplaced mail, a wish addressed to some imaginary figure. Maybe the girls, because they had to be girls, with that looping, glittery heart, had thought Santa subcontracted nurses now. She could leave the letter in the box and let it end here, or she could hold on to it. The supermarket doors whooshed open, letting in a gust of colder air. A man stepped in, shaking snow from his hair, a dark coat missing from his shoulders. She thought wildly that it might be him, the father with the broken heart. But it was just Mr. Lopez from the hardware store. Eliza looked down at her pocket. The blue edge of the paper peeked out, accusing. If she went to the house on Pine Lake Road, she told herself, she wouldn't be answering the letter. She'd just be returning it. Making sure a father knew what his kids had written, what they were carrying around in their small chests. So she would knock, say her piece, and leave. She could keep the distance that way. The thought didn't exactly calm her, but it gave the restless thing inside her something to hold him. By the time Mrs. Klein released her from coat duty, Eliza had made up her mind. She walked out into the falling snow, the letter a small, bright weight over her heart. The Ellison house looked exactly like it always did in December. Too big, too quiet. Eliza had seen it from the road before. From this close, it felt less like a postcard and more like a human place, a long porch wrapping around the front, wooden steps brushed clean of snow, double doors with glass panes. No lights strung along the roof, no wreath on the door. The only nod to the season was a pine tree out front, heavy with snow, bare of decoration. Eliza stood at the bottom of the steps for a moment, listening. The lake stretched out behind the house, a sheet of dull silver under the low sky. The air smelled of pine and cold water and the faint whiff of wood smoke. She wondered if this was a mistake, if she was about to tromp into a stranger's grief with her well-meaning boots and make everything worse. The memory of the words in that letter pushed her forward. She climbed the steps, boots thudding softly, and knocked. For a second, there was nothing. Then feet, multiple sets of feet, a rapid patter of small and smaller. The door swung open. 3 little girls blinked out at her from a tangle of curls and pajama pants. They were the kind of identical that made you want to count them twice. Same brown eyes, same dimpled cheeks, slight differences in hair length, an extra freckle here or there. 6 years old, if she had to guess. One wore a t-shirt with a unicorn and a Santa hat. One had on flannel snowman pajamas. The third was in mismatched socks in a sweater that belonged on an adult. All 3 froze. The unicorn shirt girl narrowed her eyes, inspecting Eliza from the boots to beanie. "Your hair," she said slowly. "It's yellow." Eliza lifted a hand self-consciously to the ponytail that had escaped her hat, strands of pale gold tumbling loose. "I suppose it is," she said. The snowman pajama girl gasped. "It's her," she whispered. "It's the sunshine nurse. Maddie at the clinic called you that," the third girl said. "We heard." We wrote a letter. She ducked behind her sisters, then reappeared with a shy smile. She came, unicorn shirt breathed. She really came. The magic worked. Before Eliza could say anything, they surged forward, three small bodies wrapping around her legs in an enthusiastic hug. She staggered, then laughed, balancing herself with one hand on the doorframe. "Whoa," she said. "Hi, girls." The deeper voice came from somewhere inside the house. Eliza looked up. A man stepped into view from the hallway, tall, dark-haired, wearing a charcoal sweater and jeans. A laptop was tucked under one arm. A smartphone blinked in his hand. Mid-notification. His eyes landed on her. He frowned slightly, confused. "Can I help you?" he asked. The girls fell back a step, but stayed close, still buzzing. "She can help you," Snowman Pajamas said. "That's the point. She's the nurse." Mismatched Socks added solemnly. "With the sunshine hair." He blinked, then looked at Eliza again as if to check. She cleared her throat. "Hi," she said. "I'm Eliza. Eliza Hart. I'm a nurse at the Maple Ridge Clinic." He shifted the laptop from one arm to the other, straightened a little. "Oh," he said, "I've seen your name on some of Lily's chart notes." He glanced down. One of the girls, Lily, then was tugging at his sleeve. "Daddy, she found our letter," Lily said. "The one we put in your coat for Santa." His frown deepened. "My coat?" he asked. Eliza reached into her pocket. "I found this in a pocket of a coat that was donated to the church drive at the supermarket," she said, holding out the folded blue paper. "I thought, you might want to see it." He set his devices down on a small table by the door and took the letter. His hands were large, the knuckles faintly scarred, the kind of hands that had built something once, before they found keyboards. He opened the paper. She watched his face as he read. The way his eyes lingered on Daddy is kind but sad. The small flinch at his heart is broken. The tightening at his mouth when he reached, "Can you come fix it before Christmas?" The girls watched him too, nervous now. "Are you mad?" June asked. "We didn't mean to make you sadder." He swallowed. "No," he said. His voice came out rough. He cleared it. "No, I'm not mad." He folded the paper again, slowly. He looked at Eliza. Snow framed her on the porch, a dusting on her boots. Her cheeks were pink from the cold. A lock of hair clung damply to her temple. She stood with the faint wariness of someone who expected, at any moment, to be told she'd made a mistake. "Thank you for bringing this," he said. "You didn't have to." "I know," she said, "but I grew up reading other people's letters. I thought this one deserved to be heard." Something flickered in his eyes at that. A question he didn't ask. "Girls," he said, looking back at his daughters. "You wrote this without telling me." "We thought Santa needed help," Lily said. "He has a lot to do. And you're sad." "We asked for a nurse," Maisie added matter-of-factly, "because Maddie said nurses fix hearts and lungs and stuff." "Not exactly," Eliza murmured, cheeks warming. "But we try." Grant exhaled. "Right now," he said slowly, "I think I need someone to help me fix logistics." He looked at Eliza again. "You said you're a nurse at the clinic," he said. "Do you do home care or babysitting?" "I'm sorry. I don't even know how to ask this." Her instinct was to say no. She worked too much already. Between the clinic and the nursing home, there were barely enough hours left in the week to sleep. Adding live-in work to that would be insane. She opened her mouth to say as much. June spoke first. "Daddy burns grilled cheese," she said, "like on fire. And the tree is naked," Lily added, gesturing toward the living room where the silhouette of a Christmas tree stood in the corner, bare branches sharp against the window. "And our teacher says kids need routines," Maisie said, crossing her arms. "Do you know what a routine is?" Eliza's laugh caught on something in her chest. "Yes," she said, "I do." She met Grant's gaze. He looked tired, not just physically, the kind of tired that lived in your shoulders, in the space behind your eyes. "I shouldn't have let them write this," he said quietly, "but I didn't even know they had." He ran a hand through his hair. "I work from home most days," he went on. "I've been handling it, mostly. But the holidays are, he trailed off, eyes flicking briefly toward the bare tree. The holidays are hard. It was the understatement of the year, hanging between them like breath in cold air. If you're looking for a full-time nanny or something, I'm not the right person, Eliza said. I have my jobs. But if you need help through Christmas, just until the new year, I might be able to do a few overnights, some evenings, help with meds, baths, that kind of thing. And then you can find someone permanent. She emphasized that last word without meaning to. He heard it. Something in his expression shifted, a flinch in reverse. The girls bounced on their toes. She can stay for Christmas, Yuyun asked. Like all the way. That depends on her and her schedule, Grant said, and on whether we can agree on how many grilled cheeses she's willing to risk. Eliza smiled. Let me look at my shifts, she said. But I can give you some nights, maybe a few mornings. I don't need much, just a bed and access to coffee. And cookies, Lily said earnestly. We have cookie dough. Her stomach growled, betraying her. I've been known to accept cookies as partial payment, Eliza admitted. Grant stepped back from the door. Then at least come in for one, he said. You shouldn't have to stand in the snow to hand over the letter that says I'm a lousy holiday dad. She snorted softly. I don't think it says that, she replied. She crossed the threshold, wiping her boots on the mat. The warmth of the house closed around her like a tentative arm. She was just here to help, she reminded herself. Just for a little while. Just until Christmas. For the first week, Eliza Hart lived at the edges of the Ellison house. She came in the evenings after her clinic shifts, shrugging off her coat in the mudroom while three small bodies pinwheeled around her, narrating their day. She watched Lily's breathing, listened to her lungs with her stethoscope, adjusted inhaler use. She coaxed June into baths by turning shampoo into snow foam and singing off-key carols. She helped Maisie with math homework while Grant finished Zoom calls in the home office. She left notes on the fridge. Today we try one new thing. Today we bake without burning. Today we say one nice thing about ourselves out loud. Except you, June. You get 3. The notes made the girls giggle. They made Grant pause when he reached for the milk, eyes catching on the loopy handwriting, the tiny drawn sun in the corner. She didn't rearrange the furniture. She didn't move Mara's things. There weren't many visible. A framed photo on a bookshelf, Mara laughing, her dark hair whipped by wind, a baby on each hip and the third strapped to her front. A mug in the cabinet with the slogan, Best Mom in Chipped Gold, a recipe card in a drawer, stained with cocoa and sugar. The rest of her presents lived in the spaces that felt empty. The tree in the corner of the living room, bought because the girls had begged, stood undecorated for days. Eliza imagined the ghost of previous Decembers in this house, strings of lights, paper snowflakes. Mara crouched on the floor with glitter on her hands. Grant avoided looking at it. Some nights, after the girls were in bed, Eliza would find him in the kitchen, staring at a pan with something black and smoking faintly in it. Grilled cheese, she'd ask. Supposedly, he'd reply. She'd slide in, rescue what she could, suggest soup instead. They talked in fragments, about the weather, about the absurdity of Lily's first-grade play, about Miss Beth in the nursing home. I grew up in foster care, she told him one night, wiping crumbs from the counter while snow whispered against the windows. Lots of houses, lots of rules. Not many. Roots. He had nodded, quiet, absorbing the information without pity. That sounds exhausting, he said. It teaches you to travel light, she replied, in case you have to move again. Is that why you never hang anything on your apartment walls, he asked. She blinked. You've seen my apartment, she asked. Small town, he said. I've driven past. You always leave your lamp on by the window. She looked at him, surprised. Maybe I should get curtains, she said. Maybe you like knowing someone could see you, he replied. She didn't have an answer to that. She told him about Miss Beth, the one foster parent who had made her feel like a daughter and not a guest. Her kitchen smelled like cinnamon, Eliza said, and she had this shelf with mismatched mugs. She let me pick a new one every morning for Coco. What happened, he asked. The placement was temporary from the start, she said. 2 years. Then the agency found a different home, different town. He winced. Did you keep in touch? He asked. For a while, she said, letters? Then lives got complicated. We lost track. Years later, I found her name in a list at the nursing home. I asked for that assignment. Does she remember you? He asked. Sometimes, Eliza said softly. Sometimes she calls me by another girl's name. Sometimes she looks at me like I'm the woman from the next room. But then she'll say something like, you always put too many sprinkles on the cookies. And I know she hasn't lost all of me, just the edges. He didn't speak for a moment. I'm sorry, he said. Me too, she replied. He told her about Mara, how they'd met in college, how they'd gotten married young because waiting felt pointless when you were that in love, how she'd hated the city and talked constantly about raising kids somewhere with trees. How long has it been? Eliza asked. 3 years in February, he said. She nodded. And you haven't decorated for Christmas since, she guessed. He looked at the bare tree in the living room, the way its branches cast long, stark shadows. They used to glitter, he said quietly. The girls were only 3 when she died, but they still remember the lights, the music. I stopped because it felt like putting lights on without her would erase her somehow. Like I'd be saying, look, see, everything's fine now. He swallowed. It isn't, he added. Not in the way people mean when they say that. Eliza leaned against the counter. Maybe it doesn't have to be fine, she said. Maybe it just has to be true. He glanced at her. How do you decorate for Christmas when half your heart is buried somewhere else, he asked. You decorate for the half that's still alive, she said. You let the other half sit in the quiet and be as sad as it needs to be. He considered that. Sounds messy, he said. Most real things are, she replied. The power went out on a Thursday night. A storm rolled in off the lake, wind howling, snow thick against the windows. The lights flickered, then cut, plunging the house into darkness. The girls shrieked, then laughed. Eliza moved quickly, muscle memory from the nursing home kicking in. She found flashlights, dug out candles, lit the gas fireplace. Soft light and warmth eased the sharp edge of the dark, and they gathered in the living room. The girls huddled under blankets, each with a mug of cocoa Eliza had managed to warm on the gas stove. The undecorated tree loomed beside them like a patient witness. What do we do when the lights are out? June asked, wide-eyed. We make wishes, Lily decided. That's not a rule, Maisie said. It is now, Lily replied. Eliza, what do you wish? Eliza stared into her mug. The easy answer would have been something like more sleep or better coffee. The true one sat heavy behind her teeth. I wish, she said slowly, that everyone who feels like they don't belong anywhere finds a place where they do. There was a silence. Like us, June asked. Eliza's throat tightened. Like all of us, she said. Lily snuggled deeper into her blanket. I wish the power comes back, but not too fast, she said. I like the candles. Maisie adjusted her glasses. I wish Lily's asthma goes away, she said. And Daddy stops burning grilled cheese. Laughter bubbled up, even from Grant. He sat on the floor, back against the sofa, the flicker of flame catching on the stubble along his jaw, the tired lines at the corners of his eyes. What do you wish? Eliza asked. He was quiet for a long moment. I wish this didn't have to end just because a calendar turns over, he said finally. Her heart gave that small, startled stumble again. The girls nodded, solemn. Then we have to make it a really good wish, June said, so it sticks. One by one, they drifted to sleep. First June, head dropping onto Eliza's thigh. Then Lily, curled against her side, breath soft and even. Maisie held out longest, eyes half open, until she surrendered, glasses askew. Eliza sat very still, unwilling to move and wake them. On the floor, Grant watched his daughters breathe. The light painted them in golden shadow. He looked up at Eliza. She had leaned her head back against the sofa, eyes closed, face relaxed. The candlelight traced the curve of her cheek, the tired lift of her mouth. For a moment, he let himself imagine this as a fixed thing, not a guest, not a temporary arrangement. Just a nurse with sunshine hair who came home every night, who left notes on the fridge and stories in the air. The thought frightened him. It also made something in his chest unclench. He didn't have words for that yet. He only had this, sitting in the dark, listening to the small sounds of sleep, feeling more like in a home than he had in 3 years. Miriam arrived with a gust of perfume and cold air. She stomped snow off her boots in the mudroom, cheeks flushed from the wind. "Eliza, this is Mara's sister." "Miriam," Grant said, while the girls tugged at their aunt's coat. Miriam pulled off her hat, shook out dark hair streaked with gray, and smiled. "I've heard all about you," she said, offering her hand, the new hero of grilled cheese and bedtime routines. "And hardly a hero," Eliza said, taking her hand. "More like emergency support staff." Miriam laughed. She spent the afternoon doting on her nieces, handing out small wrapped gifts, listening to their elaborate stories about the sunshine nurse who had come because of their letter. So they told her, breathless, about the coat and the note and the magic. Miriam's gaze softened when it landed on Eliza again. Later, in the kitchen, while Eliza stirred a pot of soup and Miriam poured tea, the older woman leaned against the counter. "You've been good for them," Miriam said. Eliza shrugged. "They've been good for me," she said. Miriam's eyes flicked to the window, where Eliza's reflection was faintly visible. "You know, from behind, you look a little like Mara," Miriam said, almost absently. "Same color hair, same way you tilt your head when you're thinking." The spoon paused in Eliza's hand. She didn't move. Miriam didn't seem to notice. "Not that anyone could replace her," she added quickly. "I just mean, it's funny how life brings things back around." She gave a small, sad smile and left the kitchen, arms full of mugs. Eliza stood alone for a moment. The soup bubbled softly. From the living room came the sound of the girls singing along to a Christmas song. Their aunt's laughter threaded through. "You look a little like Mara. Not you are you. Not they need you. Just you fit the silhouette." Heat rose in Eliza's chest, a mix of shame and anger that wasn't really aimed at Miriam. She had been the replacement enough times to know exactly how it worked. The new foster kid brought in when the old one left. The babysitter hired when someone else went to college. The extra set of hands for the holidays. Good enough to fill the gap. Not enough to keep when the season ended. She finished stirring the soup. Her hands shook. That night, after everyone had gone to bed and the house was finally quiet, Eliza sat on the edge of the guest room bed with an open suitcase beside her. She folded her clothes carefully, placing each item in like she could smooth out the ache if her corners were neat. She didn't cry. She had learned, long ago, that tears didn't change the end date stamped on things. On the nightstand, the blue letter lay under a book, the one that had brought her here, the one she had given back to Grant but copied for herself, because something in her needed proof that someone, somewhere, Ikomo, had once asked specifically for someone like her. She pulled out a blank card and a pen. "Dear Grant, thank you for letting me share this piece of your girls' lives," she wrote. "Thank you for the nights by the fire and the laughter in the kitchen. If my being here has made anyone feel like Mara is being replaced, I am sorry. That is a weight I never wanted to add to your home. Your daughters deserve someone who belongs here without question. Someone who doesn't come with a suitcase already half-packed in her head. I hope you and the girls have a Christmas full of light, in whatever way feels right. With gratitude, Eliza." She left the card on the kitchen table, next to the bowl of oranges and a pile of tiny mittens. At the top of the stairs, she paused. She could hear the soft murmur of sleep, the periodic cough that meant Lily's lungs were still doing their nightly dance. She could see, in her mind, the way June drooled onto her pillow, the way Maisie clutched her stuffed bear like an anchor. "Don't attach," she whispered to herself. She picked up her bag and slipped out into the cold. Snow had fallen again. It crunched under her boots. Behind her, the house stood dark and still, the tree in the window a shadow. She walked down the path without looking back. Grant woke to the smell of cinnamon and the sound of silence. For a strange, hazy second, he thought maybe that Eliza was in the kitchen, the girl still asleep, the day waiting to unfurl into cocoa and cartoons and snow angels. Then he realized the girl's room was too quiet. No whispered conspiracies, No giggles, no feet thudding across the hall. He sat up, heart thumping, and went to check. All three girls were awake, sitting on Lily's bed, knees drawn up, cheeks blotchy. "What's going on?" he asked, the panic in his chest shifting shape. Lily held up a crumpled tissue. "She left," she said. "Eliza left." June's eyes brimmed. "We saw her suitcase," she sniffed. "We asked if she was going on a trip, and she said just going back to my place." "We already used our letter," Maisie said, voice thin. "We don't know how to get another her." The words pierced him. He searched the house, the guest room, empty but for the imprint of a head on a pillow, the mudroom, her coat hook bare, the fridge, where her notes still fluttered under magnets. In the kitchen, he found the card. He read it once, then again. His chest felt like someone had reached in and gently, methodically, pushed everything out of place. Miriam came down the stairs, hair mussed, confusion turning to guilt when she understood. "I didn't mean she started." "I know," he said. He did know. It hadn't been one sentence that sent Eliza away. It had been a lifetime of them. He found the girls in the living room. The tree still had no lights. A few paper snowflakes Eliza had helped them cut lay on the coffee table, waiting for string. Lily sat near the base of the tree with a piece of paper in her lap. Crayons were scattered around her like small, colorful bones. "What are you drawing?" he asked, voice gentler than he felt. She held it up, 4 stick figures, 3 small ones with wild hair, one taller, a house behind them, big and square, with a crooked tree beside it. The taller figure has a break down the middle of its chest. Above the drawing, in wobbly letters, she had written, "We broke Christmas. Please fix it, Daddy." His eyes stung. He knelt on the rug, the fibers rough under his knees. "I'm the one who broke it," he said quietly. "Not you." He picked up the blue paper from where he had left it the night before, tucked near the fruit bowl. "Dear Nurse with the sunshine hair." He had reread it privately every night since Eliza arrived. He smoothed it flat on his knee. "The truth is," he said, more to himself than to the girls, "you fixed more than my schedule. You and she." He looked at his daughters. Their faces were open and hopeful and hurt. They had taken the risk he hadn't. They had written a wish down and thrown it into the world. He had almost let it vanish with a donated coat. He thought of Mara, of all the times she'd told him he was too careful, too afraid of making a mess. He thought of Eliza, standing on the porch in the snow, letter in hand, offering him a chance to listen. He stood. "Get dressed," he told the girls. They blinked. "Why?" June asked. "Because I broke something," he said, "and I need to go try to fix it." "But it's Christmas," Maisie said. "Exactly," he replied. He pulled on his boots and coat, grabbed his keys, and paused at the door. He didn't go to Eliza's apartment. He didn't know if she was there, and he had no right to show up at her personal space without warning. He went to the nursing home instead. The Maple Ridge Care Center was quiet on Christmas Day. Most of the residents who still had family had been taken out for a few hours. Those who remained dozed in front of a television playing an old movie. A small artificial tree twinkled half-heartedly in the corner. Eliza sat in the staff room with a paper cup of coffee cooling between her hands and a stack of chart notes beside her. Her scrubs felt tighter than usual, like she'd grown a new layer of skin she wasn't sure how to wear. She had slept in the on-call room after leaving the Ellison house, then rolled straight into her shift. No one had questioned it. Nurses dragging their feet between night and day were commonplace here. She stared at a blank Christmas card addressed to Miss Beth. "What do you write to someone who remembers you only in flashes?" "Dear Miss Beth, thank you for being my favorite almost mother." The pen hovered. A knock sounded at the open doorway. She looked up. Grant stood there, snow on his shoulders, a wooden box in his hands and something like apology carved into his features. For a moment, her brain refused to match this image with the one it expected. He belonged in his big house on the hill, not under the humming fluorescent lights of the staff room. She set the pen down slowly. "How did you," she began. "Oh, the girls," he said. "They told me you had the Christmas shift, and Maple Ridge only has one nursing home." He stepped in, carefully like he was entering a church. "Can I?" He nodded toward the empty chair opposite her. She hesitated, then gestured for him to sit. He sat, the wooden box thunking softly onto the table between them. "I know you're working," he said. "I'll keep it short." She folded her hands in her lap to keep from fidgeting. "You could have just read the card and moved on," she said, hearing the defense in her own voice. "It was meant to make a clean exit." "I did read it," he said. "And then Lily showed me something else." He opened the box. Inside was the blue letter. It was worn at the corners now, the fold lines softened from being opened and closed. Beside it was a child's Christmas card, covered in stickers. Red and green marker letters spelled, "Dear Eliza, please don't go. We didn't ask Santa for toys this year. We asked for you. Love, Lily, June, Maisie." There was a drawing under the words, a stick figure with sunshine hair standing between three smaller ones, all holding hands. Eliza's breathing hitched. Grant lifted out a small plaque carved from pale wood. The engraving was simple. "This was the first time I believed again. Joel, I had this made," he said, fingers brushing the letters, "for the day you first walked up our steps. I didn't know when I'd give it to you, or if I ever would." She looked at him. His eyes were tired, but there was a steadiness in them she hadn't seen before. "I'm not asking you to come back and finish a temp job," he said. "I'm not asking you to stand in the exact spaces Mara used to stand and pretend it doesn't hurt everyone in the room." He took a breath. "I am asking you to consider coming back and letting us figure out a new shape together," he went on. "One where Mara stays on the walls and in the stories, where the girls know they had a mother who loved them and that no one will replace her, but also one where they get to have a present tense that isn't just waiting for memories to stop hurting." Emotion burned behind her eyes. "You deserve someone who isn't constantly ready to leave," she said, her voice barely steady. "Someone who doesn't see suitcases every time she sees a closet." He shook his head. "You deserve someone who just doesn't make you feel like you're a seasonal hire in your own life," he said. "And so do my girls." He leaned forward slightly. "You're not a copy of her," he said. "You don't laugh like her. You don't cook like her. You don't even like the same songs. The girls talk about you as you. Eliza who makes too much cinnamon. Eliza who knows how to listen to their lungs in the middle of the night. Eliza who wrote, 'Today we try one new thing on our fridge,' and somehow made me believe we could." A tear escaped despite her efforts. She wiped it away with the heel of her hand. "I heard what Miriam said," he added, "and I should have said something then. I should have told her you're not our echo. You're another song." She laughed, a wet, disbelieving sound. "That's a terrible metaphor," she said. "I'm a better engineer than poet," he admitted. "But the point stands." He sat back. "Look," he said, "I can't promise I'll never mess up again. I can't promise there won't be days when I get scared and retreat. But I can promise you this: if you decide to come back, I will not treat you like a placeholder. I will not slide you into some outline Mara left behind. I will not ask you to pack yourself into a suitcase the second someone gets uncomfortable." He nudged the wooden plaque toward her. "If you come back," he said quietly, "I want it to be because you're choosing us. Not because three little girls wrote a letter and fate shoved you through our door." Eliza picked up the plaque. The wood was smooth, warm from his hands. "First time I believed again. I don't know how to be the person who stays," she whispered. "I've never done it. Every time I thought I could, someone else decided for me." He nodded. "Then maybe," he said, "this is something we learn together. The girls, you, me. How to stay when it's hard. How to let something be messy and still worth keeping." A nurse poked her head into the room, saw them, and retreated politely. Eliza traced the letters with her thumb. "What would it look like," she asked, "if I came back? Not just for Christmas, but after." "We'd start small," he said. "You'd keep your job at the clinic. We'd adjust nights at the nursing home so you're not working yourself into the ground. You'd have a room that's yours, not a guest room. A place for your pictures on the wall, if you want them." He managed a small smile. We'd burn fewer grilled cheeses, he added. Her lips twitched. The girls would know you're there because you want to be, he continued. Not because you promised their dad you'd finish a contract. And if, at some point, we decide this is more than whatever it is now, we talk about it. We don't let fear make that choice in silence. She looked at him. You're not asking me to marry you, she said. No. He said, I'm asking you to come home after your shift. The word home curled in the air between them. She had never had anyone use it like that with her in mind. Eliza closed her eyes briefly. She saw the Ellison kitchen, the fridge with her notes, the couch where June had fallen asleep with her head in Eliza's lap, the undecorated tree waiting for lights. She saw Miss Beth in her bed down the hall, eyes clouded, hand reaching for hers, saying, You always put too many sprinkles on the cookies. She thought of all the houses she had left because she had no say. This was different. This was an invitation. I have 6 more hours on the shift, she said, opening her eyes. My patients still need meds and bed checks, so of course, he said quickly. I'm not trying to pull you away from that. But when I'm done, she said, if I show up at your door again, that's me choosing. He nodded. If you don't show up, he said, that's you choosing too. As much as it will kill me, I'll have to respect that. Something in his expression made it clear that he meant it. She nodded, throat tight. Then we'll see what happens after sunrise, she said. He stood, shoulders dropping with a kind of relieved exhaustion. I'll go tell the girls that I invited you, he said, and that now we wait. He paused at the door. Eliza, he said. Yes, whatever you decide, he said. Thank you for every day you've already given us. When he was gone, the room felt smaller and bigger at once. Eliza looked down at the plaque in her hands. She thought of the little girl she had been, staring out of borrowed windows at other people's Christmas lights, wishing someone would choose her. Maybe this is for you too, she whispered to that version of herself. Then she set the plaque carefully in her bag and went back to work. The snow didn't stop. By the time Eliza clocked out, the sky had brightened from black to a pearly gray. The world outside the nursing home was muffled and soft. She stepped into it with her bag over her shoulder, breath fogging, heart pounding. Her apartment was a 3-block walk in one direction. The road to Pine Lake curved the other way. She stood at the edge of the parking lot, boots sinking into untouched snow, and felt the familiar anxiety rise. Leaving had always been taken out of her hands. Staying had always been denied her. Choosing either felt like stepping off an edge with no rail. A taxi slowed, the driver rolling down his window. Need a ride, he called. Eliza took a breath that felt like it started years ago. Yes, she said. Where to, he asked. She hesitated only a heartbeat. Pine Lake Road, she said. The big house on the hill. The igloo in the Ellisons' backyard was more ambitious than structurally sound. It leaned slightly to one side, its blocks of snow stacked by small hands and the occasional adult course correction. Inside, someone had laid old blankets on the packed snow floor and set battery-operated candles in a circle, their fake flames flickering. Eliza ducked through the low entrance, cheeks still cold from the walk up the hill. She had hesitated in the front of the house, heart hammering, until the door flew open and 3 girls barreled out in boots and coats, yelling her name like she were some kind of celebrity. Now they perched cross-legged inside the snow castle, faces flushed, eyes bright. Grant sat to one side, his head nearly brushing the igloo ceiling, knees drawn up awkwardly. A thermos of hot chocolate sat between them, steam curling lazily. You came, June said, as if this were still in doubt. I did, Eliza said. Maisie nodded, satisfied. Good, she said. We have an agenda. Grant laughed under his breath. She's been practicing that word, he murmured. Maisie produced a wrinkled piece of notebook paper covered in scribbles. First, she read, we drink cocoa. Then we say thank you. Then Daddy does the thing. The thing, Eliza echoed. Grant shot his daughter a look. You were not supposed to call it the thing, he said. We talked about this. Sorry, Maisie said, not sounding sorry at all. They passed around cups. The cocoa was hot and sweet and tasted like something rescued from a burned attempt and made properly. Lily fidgeted with the cuff of her mitten. "We want to say thank you," she blurted, "for coming back, for reading our letter, for making Daddy not sad all the time." "I still get sad," he said gently, "but it doesn't feel like all there is anymore." Eliza's throat closed. "You're welcome," she managed. June scooted closer. "Can we ask you something?" she whispered, as if they weren't in a small, echoing dome. "You can always ask," Eliza said. "Can you stay?" June asked. "Not just for Coco or Christmas." "Stay, stay." The question landed like a small, warm stone in her hands. She looked at Grant. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small box. "Okay," he said to Maisie. "I guess it's time for the thing." He opened the box. Inside was a necklace. The pendant was a heart, but not a neat, single piece. It was made of 4 interlocking segments, each with a tiny loop for a chain. 3 were joined already, forming most of the shape. Each had been engraved with a name on the front in the tiny letters: Lily, June, Maisie. The 4th piece lay beside them, separate. "Eliza." He lifted the loose piece. "I'm not asking you to marry me," he said, voice steady but soft. "That's a conversation for another time, if we ever get there, and when the girls are less likely to crash the moment." The girls looked offended. "We would be very supportive," Lily protested. "I know," he said. "That's what worries me." He looked back at Eliza. "What I am asking," he said, "is if you'll let your name be here with us. Not as an employee, not as the nurse who came when fate dropped a letter in her lap, but as someone who belongs in this house, someone the girls can look for in every Christmas picture from now on." He held the small piece out between them. "It doesn't have to be forever," he said. "Nothing in life ever comes with that guarantee, as we both know too well. But I'd like to build as much for now and for as long as we can with you as you're willing to give." The candles flickered. The snow walls muffled the distant sound of the town. Eliza stared at the tiny bit of metal. Her name, for once, was not on a file, not on a badge, not on a placement form. It was on a piece of something meant to be whole. Her eyes burned. "All my life," she said slowly, "I've walked into houses knowing I'd have to walk out again. Someone else always decided when that was." She looked up, met his gaze. "It's terrifying," she said, "to think I might be the one to decide now, to say, I'm staying, and risk all the ways that could hurt." "I know," he said. "The idea of packing up and leaving before anyone can ask me to," she continued, voice shaking, "has always felt safer." She exhaled. "But I'm tired of safe." A small hand slipped into hers. "Lily, you don't have to promise forever," Lily said. "Just promise you'll be there when we wake up most days." Most days. It was such a realistic, human-sized promise. No grand, unbreakable vows, just presence. Eliza closed her fingers around the little hand. "Okay," she whispered. "Most days." Then, Grant's shoulders relaxed in a way that made her realize how tense they'd been. "Is that a yes?" June demanded. Eliza nodded. "Yes," she said. "It's a yes." The girls squealed. Maisie snatched the necklace pieces with the seriousness of a surgeon and carefully slid the Eliza segment into place. It clicked in snug. "Now it's a whole heart," she announced. Grant fastened the chain around Eliza's neck, his fingers brushing the nape of her neck lightly. The metal lay warm against her skin, the tiny seams between names nearly invisible. "As long as you want to wear it," he murmured. "We'll make room for you." She smiled, tears finally spilling. "I've never had my name on anything like this," she said. "Get used to it," he replied. Outside the igloo, the world continued with its frozen rhythms. Inside, in a small, imperfect dome of packed snow and borrowed blankets, a nurse who had grown up never knowing where she'd belong let herself lean toward the center of a family's gravity. A year later, Maple Ridge lit up early. Lights wrapped around trees, draped along porches, twined through railings. The Ellison house on Pine Lake Road glowed brighter than any of them. Strings of warm white bulbs traced the roofline. The once bare pine in the front yard wore ornaments made of paper and wood and one ceramic star that had been Mara's. The porch railings sported garlands woven with cinnamon sticks and dried oranges, and inside, The living room smelled of cocoa and pine. The tree in the corner bowed under the weight of homemade ornaments and too many lights. Photos nestled among the branches' baby faces, gap-toothed grins, two little girls in matching dresses, three in boots and hats, one of Grant and Eliza laughing in the kitchen, flour on both their noses. On the mantel, two frames sat side by side. In one, Mara held a toddler in each arm, the lake behind her, her smile wall and bright. In the other, Grant stood with his arm around Eliza, the three girls piled in front of them, all covered in snow and grinning. A wreath hung above them, intertwined with a small wooden plaque. This was the first time I believed again. Eliza sat cross-legged on the rug, a box of ornaments at her side, watching Lily. June and Maisie argued gently about where to place a particularly ugly clay heart someone had made. Not there, June said. It'll fall. It needs to be near the front, Lily insisted. Otherwise, people won't see it. Why do we care if people see it? Maisie asked. It's for us. Eliza smiled. They had these conversations now. Small, ordinary arguments over ornaments instead of whispered worries over whether their father would smile that day. Her phone buzzed. A photo popped up, Miss Beth, in a Santa hat slightly askew, a nurse from the home grinning beside her hero. The caption read, "She asked for the girl with all the sprinkles. We told her you said hello." Eliza's chest warmed. Pieces of her life that had felt cut off from one another: foster homes, hospital wards. Small apartments now seemed connected by invisible strings. "What you looking at?" June asked. "Peering." "An old friend," Eliza said. "Someone who helped me believe this," she gestured around, "was possible." "Oh," June said, "like we did with the letter." "Exactly," Eliza replied. The girls had told the letter story so many times now that it had become part of family lore. Three little kids who had scribbled a wish on blue paper and thrown it into the world. A coat accidentally donated. A nurse with sunshine hair who'd picked it up. A house that had been big and learning how to be big and full instead. At the dining table where Grant sat with the stack of mail, sorting through bills and cards. He picked up a messy envelope with crayon on the front. To Santa, Stables, North Pole, or whoever is in charge now. He opened it. Inside, 3 different handwriting styles shared the page, accompanied by drawings of reindeer and cocoa mugs. "Dear Santa, we don't want toys again this year. We already got what we asked for before. We got her. If you have time, maybe give Nurse Eliza a nap and Daddy some new pans. Love, Lily, June, Maisie." Grant laughed, a low, full sound that carried into the living room. "What's funny?" Eliza called. "Santa feedback," he replied. "Apparently he needs to work on our cookware situation." She rolled her eyes, smiling. He came to stand behind her, resting a hand on her shoulder, his thumb brushing the chain at her collarbone. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She looked around the room, at the tree, at the girls, at the mantel with its 2 frames, past and present side by side, at the faint reflection of herself in the window glass, not as a visitor, but as a fixture. She took his hand and pressed it, solid and real, against her heart. "I am," she said. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and steady, blanketing the old tracks of years past, making room for new ones. Inside, a family that once felt permanently incomplete leaned into the glow of their stitched-together life, no longer waiting for the sharp edges of grief or childhood scars to disappear, but learning, day by slow day, how to build warmth around them. Not perfect, not painless, but true, and finally theirs.